Do you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good Monday morning, Birds fans. Appreciate you starting to the week with us here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen, and Jody McDonald, and we got a lot of football to talk about. Most of it Eagles, but we will certainly give you our thoughts on the two championship games played yesterday and the upcoming Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Niners. But we surely start with the Philadelphia Eagles because, Johnny Mac, I'm on the air till 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, so I had seen the report from Adam Schefter that the Philadelphia Eagles certainly acting quickly to hire Vic Fangio as their new defensive coordinator after being eliminated from the playoffs and deciding Nick Sirianni was going to stay, but there would be other coaching staff changes, including the two coordinator positions. Got Vic Fangio in as their defensive coordinator pretty darn quickly, and not that far behind. New offensive coordinator as well. A couple names were tossed out there last week. Some interviews done. And they got Kellen Moore done pretty darn quickly as well. As soon as the Chargers knew they were hiring Jim Harbaugh, they gave Kellen Moore the ability to go out and talk to other teams. Well, he talked quickly to the Browns and then came here to Philadelphia, and Howie Roseman et al. Offered him the offensive coordinator's job. Nick Sirianni talked last week in the media session about fresh ideas.
Fresh ideas, yeah.
Is Kellen Moore bringing the type of fresh ideas into Philadelphia for the new look Eagle offense next year?
I think he's a really good coordinator. I'll say that. The fresh ideas part of it, I don't know. I think people, you throw a little motion in there, they think it's a fresh idea. And he is, I think about the pendulum theory in politics, which is, when you go one way too far, it swings back the other way. So I think the things that you heard about, blitz, motion, Kellen Moore's been very good at handling the blitz with Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert. In his history, he uses motion, top 10 motion team last year. I think it's a little bit of that, but to me, it's okay because I think he's good. I think he's pretty good at his job. And I still wonder how it works, and we're going to see that unfold. And I don't know if it's tenable because, if you think about 2021, and this is an interesting day, I believe this is the anniversary of Nick Sirianni's first press conference, January 29th, I believe. And we all know how well that went. But I go back to that for this reason, Jody. The Eagles interviewed Kellen Moore in 2021 to be the head coach of this team. Now, he's a very young guy now. He was even younger then, so it was probably a bit of a stretch. But they went with Nick Sirianni's offensive ideas over Kellen Moore's offensive ideas. So the assumption, and people grow and people regress, and certainly things don't stay the same. But I'm interested to see how it works. And then you bring up some of the championship games, and Dan Campbell's getting a lot of what today for his decisions. a lot of people, well, you gotta fire Dan Campbell and you got to keep Ben Johnson. Here's the thing, Jody. If the Eagles play well next season, you know, and reach the top of the league again, whether it's making the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, near the Super Bowl, Kellen Moore's probably going to be a head coach, and you're in this rotation again and again and again. But then I look at it from that perspective, and that stat, which I brought up last week on the show, there's not a coordinator in this league that was in place before 2022. So maybe that's just part of it in the modern NFL.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm interested to see how it works. And you know, if Nick's willing to sit back and say, all right, Kellen, it's your offense, because everything he said in 3 years, and this is, I'm not talking about one time, Jody. I'm not talking about 2 times. I'm not talking about 5 times. I'm not talking about 10 times. I'm talking many, many times. Nick Sirianni has said, both in front of the cameras and behind the cameras, more importantly, as long as I'm here, this is my offense. Well, Jeffrey Lurie took that away from him. So
Yep.
I'm interested to see how that unfolds, to say the least.
And despite what Nick said previously, the most important thing was what was said last week, and it was blatantly obvious in these press conferences, and you and I read between the lines, everybody else reads between the lines. They state up to a point, but then they're not going to tell you exactly everything that's happening behind the scenes and said in closed-door meetings with Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman. So you have to do some interpreting. Yeah, this is not going to be Nick Sirianni's offense this year. It will be much more Kellen Moore's offense, with a meshing. That was another key word from last week. The meshing of the new ideas with the things that have worked for the Eagles over the last 3 years in Sirianni's offense. It'll be more than it will be Sirianni. It'll be more, less Sirianni, but it will be a meshing. And I'm good with the hire. I liked Kellen Moore when he was in Dallas. I thought he gave the Eagles fits at times. I think he was a nice match with Dak Prescott. And to use a word that you use plenty of times here on the show, scapegoating.
They scapegoated him, ironically.
They scapegoated the snot out of him in Dallas. There was no way, in my estimation, he should have been fired last year just because of another early playoff exit. Somebody's got to be blamed. They weren't ready, much like the Eagles this year. They weren't ready to fire their head coach, and the quarterback was signed to a massive deal. So who's got to pay the price? Off with the head of the offensive coordinator. And he landed just fine in L.A. with the Chargers. I think he's a smart young football guy. He's not that far removed from being on the field, so I think he relates to the young players in the National Football League. It would have been my second choice. I told you here last week on Birds 365, my number one choice would have been Joe Brady from Buffalo. And he also, like Kellen Moore, got the official gig yesterday in Buffalo. I guess that with an interim, you still must go through the Rooney Rule hirings, right? Meetings. You have to still adhere to the Rooney Rule. You just can't give a job to an interim guy.
Yeah. Unless you can do it in season. And that's a good question. I'll double back. You can definitely do it in season when you can just elevate an interim guy, take off that tag if you want, without going through the hoops. I believe once the season ends, if you haven't done it, then you have to go through it. But I'm not sure about that. That's a good
do so. Please double check that for me, because I was surprised. I thought that, then if the rules are the way you just stated them, then they missed an opportunity. I would have elevated them in season to have to not go through the jumping of hoops for the Rooney Rule. But they did. They finished the season. They got beat. They didn't want to deal with that while they were trying to make a Super Bowl run, so they had to do what they had to do. They got it done pretty quickly, and it looks like Brady was not as available as maybe it looked, because he didn't just immediately get the job. He would have been my number one choice. Kellen Moore probably would have been number two out of the guys that were available. I sure as hell wanted no part of Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know about Gerard Johnson, short-term.
Too young, too inexperienced, especially coming off. I think the one thing I look in, Vic obviously has been a coordinator, head coach, assistant to the head coach for about 3 decades. So, and Kellen, even though he's very young, This will be his 6th year as an offensive coordinator. Obviously, they didn't want to go into another year with, and Sean Desai had 1 year, but Brian Johnson had no years at this level. And both of them had growing pains, as they should have, as the Eagles should have known. You have to grow on that particular job. I think they wanted experience with the position. And I got to be honest with you, all those names, including Kingsbury, you threw out there, Joe Brady, Kellen Moore. I wouldn't have had a problem with any of them. I'm more interested in how it works and how it, because that to me is but I think Kellen's been very good. He's had, whether you look at traditional statistics, he's had a couple number one offenses. Whether you look at advanced DVOA, he had number one offense at one point. He's done well, as I said, against the blitz. He's, but he's also had 2 really good quarterbacks. So I do think it's a little bit different, and how you build around Jalen Hurts than how you build around Justin Herbert or even Dak Prescott. So, we got to see it unfold. But I think the more interesting part of it is, how Nick reacts and how Nick handles all this, to be honest.
And Sirianni is still a head coach, even though he may be a neutered head coach. He is still a head coach, and how he handles it going forward. If you expect him to do the job and be the leader of this team, the actual hands-on dictating of terms going to be lessened. So he's going to become a motivator and a rallying guy, a CEO with the heavy on the operating end of it. He's got to have some good grip on where the team is going. He's got to be able to work with these 2 coordinators. And I don't think the defense is going to be the key. He's going to turn the entire kitchen sink over to Fangio. But offense is something that's going to have to be collaborative. And I'd much rather see him working with Kellen Moore than a guy who eventually got run out of Arizona. When they hired him, they said, "Oh, okay, you need to have us pick the number 1 pick in the draft after we just took a quarterback in the top 10 the year before." Okay, yeah, whatever you want, Clint. Yeah,
well, Clip was right on that one, by the way. I don't think Josh Rosen.
Do you think he was right because he knew Josh Rosen was a stiff, or because he had his desires to?
I have no idea. No, he definitely wanted to coach Kyler, but right. I have no idea if he knew Josh Rosen was going to be a stiff. But if he did or he didn't, he was a stiff. So I mean.
Right. I'm not going to give Kingsbury all that much credit for that. A lot of people, Jody McDonald included, said, "What the hell is this guy doing being picked in top 10 picks in the draft?" So they corrected a mistake. But again, they in his 1 year that he probably puts at the top of his resume list, they got out 9-0, kind of like the Eagles being 10-1. And guess what? Their season fell apart. We didn't need to go back down that road again here in Philadelphia. So I like the Moore hiring. Pretty darn high on my level of possible moves that they're going to make. And yeah, guess what, Howie? Now the attention turns to you, which, oh, by the way, it should be anyway, because you know that Howie Roseman's going to have his fingerprints all over these other coaching hirings as well. He was a Fangio guy. He's now cast himself as a Kellen Moore guy. Kellen Moore is going to have a hand in, like Vic Fangio, in filling out the rest of the coaching staff. Couple of names that have been thrown out so far, John, just want to get your take on them. Jeff Kerr's going to join us coming up in about 5 or 6 minutes. The linebacker coach position, and I feel bad for Elliott. Comes in 1 year, kind of like the 2 coordinators was told, you're going to grow on the job real fast. Otherwise, it's going to be a short-term lease here, and doesn't look like it's going to work out. 2 pretty big names, guys who were coordinators in the league last year, who may be interested in coming to Philadelphia and be a positional coach. My guess would be both would be linebacker, because that's what they were previously before becoming DCs. Mike Caldwell, Joe Barry. Caldwell last year in Tampa, Barry last year in Green Bay. Both were replaced this offseason. If they're not going to get a DC job, they want to be coaching somewhere. And coaching under Fangio here in Philly's defense might not be a bad spot. You like either of those two guys? If the Eagles could land them for their staff, probably at the
Yeah, I
linebacker
mean
position?
that's the one thing about Vic Fangio. He'll have some cachet to get some big time coaches, so they should be much better coached on the defensive side of the ball. And as you mentioned, um, not only Joe Barry but Mike Caldwell, former defensive coordinators in this league. A lot of it stems to, are they going to get coordinator jobs, specifically. Um, if they can, obviously they're not going to come here, but if they can't, yeah, I mean, Vic's the kind of guy that with the cachet to draw those people onto his staff, and they all have such tremendous respect for him. So that's one of the big positives of Vic Fangio. Ronaldo Hill, a lot of people have speculated as the secondary coach. And by the way, I think he would have liked to have Sean Desai as a secondary coach, but that's not tenable here. And he's a former coordinator, I believe, with the Chargers. So, yeah, he's that kind of guy who he can bring in some big time talent on the coaching side, as they would say. So I think things are going to work out pretty well, no matter what, when it comes to assistants, especially this year, because the Eagles really did a poor job. Nothing against and DJ Elliott, you bring up. I mean, he spent his entire year and his entire career in college. He was at Temple. It was almost like that. Oh, we can't get anybody. Let's call DJ. He'll go from North Broad to South Broad. And he had a tough job. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he had to get Zach Cunningham up to speed when he came in August, and Miles Jack, and then Shaq Leonard late in the season. So I don't know if anybody could have done that job, but whomever comes in is probably going to be an upgrade. You know, we'll see how DK McDonald, because DK's more of a Nick Sirianni guy. So I don't know how things are going to work out for him. You know, they have the slot coach, which would seem like a unique thing to do, but the slot was a disaster for the Eagles the entire season. Injuries are a big part of that. Yeah, I think the staff is going to be much better equipped, and Vic's going to be a big part of that, as I said, because of his reputation. And then offensively, you know, I think the top job is going to be quarterback coach, and you got to believe it's going to be Doug Nussmeier, because he was with Kellen Moore in Dallas, and he was with him with the Chargers, and Harbaugh doesn't want him back. So I got to believe he's going to be the quarterback coach, and that's going to be the most important day-to-day role, because you got to get Jalen Hurts back on the right track. So it should be a better staff on paper.
And by the way, if you need any more proof as to how neutered the head coach has become when it comes to his coaching staff, it's still Nick. He's still the head coach, so it's his coaching staff. But we know the dynamics of how it works and how it plays itself out. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being, what the hell are we talking about here? 10 being, oh my God, this guy's got a chance to be coach of the year someday in the NFL. Where would you put Nick Sirianni's evaluation of Alex Tanney when he talked to you guys about the
Alex? I wrote, man, Alex Tanney. There's so much of this. This is what I don't like about the Eagles organization. So I'm going to get Eagles fans upset. They talk these guys up, and they talk about them like they're future stars. Yep. And then all of a sudden they're dummies. I mean, come on. What are you trying to say? Alex is another guy getting scapegoated. Nick Sirianni couldn't talk, give as many praises as humanly possible when it came to Alex Tanney. And I still think he's an ascending coach in this league. If you think about where he comes from, you think about Kellen Moore. You said he's right off the field.
Yeah, same thing.
That's what Nick Sirianni said about Alex Tanney back at I think it was the Combine last year. He's like, he's got that gravitas because he played the game. The players know him. The players understand. He can relate to the modern generation because he's part of it. Yeah, he's getting scapegoated, and nobody cares. But and that's part of it. That's part of this industry, unfortunately. But I don't think overnight he turned into a dummy. And that's how they portray these things, which I think is, and bless you, but I think this is something I don't like about this organization, because they have done it pretty consistently when things have gone bad. And Alex is another one in that category.
And that's why I lean on you. Our streamers lean on you, because you relay the things that are said, some on the record, some off the record at Eagle camps and like. And I just remember you're coming in on Birds 365 and saying, man, Sirianni likes Alex Tanney. They had to elevate Brian Johnson from quarterback position. So they needed a new quarterback coach. They got a good one in Alex Tanney. If Sirianni is right about this guy, he's going to step right in, work wonders with Jalen Hurts. Yeah, and 9 months later, he's out the door, because there were just massive changes. And when you're just a positional coach, these things are going to happen. You can be really good at your job, but if they change someone above you and they like someone better for your job, guess what? You're
happened to Nick Sirianni with Andy Reid.
Exactly.
And Andy, said wonderful things about Nick, but he already had a guy. So, I mean, and he had to go off to the Chargers from the Chiefs. So it's kind of how it works when you're on the lower rungs. And Alex was on, he came right off the field with the Giants, was a quality control coach. Then he was assistant quarterbacks coach. Then he was quarterbacks coach. If things, I wrote about this, if things went the way the Eagles would have expected, Brian Johnson would be a head coach and Alex Tanney would be the offensive coordinator. That's what Nick wanted. Nick wanted to create this ecosystem where the next guy was on his staff ready to go, and he took immense pride in that. That's another reason why I'm concerned how this all works out, because I guarantee he's not happy with it.
All right, Jeff Kerr's going to join us coming up in just a couple of minutes, but I want to give credit to the people, the 400 and change that have already streamed in today, and those who take advantage of putting their thoughts on our stream, typing in their thoughts. John, I've not seen one yet today say this, and I feared we were going to get it, because I get it on my phone lines on WIP. Well, why are they hiring Kellen Moore? He's going to come in here and do a good job and only move on to be a head coach anyway. So what's the other option? Hire a mid guy so he sticks around for 3 years?
Yeah.
Hire somebody who stinks that
I can tell you
after 1 year? Oh, we can't hire this guy because he's going to be too good and we're just going to lose him. That's the biggest defeatist attitude on the face of the earth. Thank you, streamers, to the Birds.
Well, I can tell you.
Nobody put that up there yet.
I can tell you, because I get this a lot. And this is from a lot of the people that say that. And as I said, there's not an offensive coordinator in place in this league before 2022. So it's part of it in the modern game. But and he will get a head coaching job if the Eagles are successful. And as you said, but this is what they say, not what I say. This is what they say, Jody. And Jeff Kerr, we got to get the break, I know. That's why the head coach has to call plays. That's why the head coach has to call plays. And that's why I brought up Detroit, because people are saying that Detroit, we got to keep Ben Johnson. You got to keep Ben Johnson at all costs. That's why the head coach has to call plays. It's so short-sighted, but I digress.
Yeah, idiotic as far as I'm concerned. But the defeatist that we can't hire him because he's going to be too good. That just speaks
and then
to
when the head coach,
stupidity
and then
itself.
And then when the head coach makes game management mistakes and is calling the plays like Kyle Shanahan, occasionally gets bogged down. Kyle's great, but he gets bogged down with some game management stuff at times. People lose their minds. It's whatever.
Ridiculous. And oh, by the way, Ben Johnson, who I still believe is going to be the Commanders' next head coach. I think he's going to get that gig. The head coach made the call to go for it on 4th down twice in the second half, but Ben, the genius Johnson, couldn't come up with a play that was good enough to convert.
Well, Josh Reynolds should catch the stinking football. I think people forget the first one.
First one was catch. The second one was a bad throw.
The second one, they got caught. Second one, they got caught by Steve Wilkes. They were expected man. They got zone. They got caught. It happens. The first one, I talked about. We got to get to Jeff. We'll talk about it. But let's get the break and get to Jeff. But yeah, I mean, it's part of it. If an offensive coordinator does well, yeah, you move on to the next.
The OC can save the coach from a bad decision every once in a while. Wasn't the case yesterday in Detroit. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We got Jeff Kerr, who was live in Baltimore yesterday for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's another rub salt in the wounds one. Oh, it's so hard to get back to the Super Bowl. The Eagles are going to be up against it this year. It's just so difficult to go 2 years in a row. Or you can go to 4 out of 5 like the Kansas City Chiefs do. Somehow they're able to overcome that, but it was too large a task for the Eagles to be able to do this year. Wrong. He's McMullen. I'm McDonald. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, joins us next on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald, joined by Jeff Kerr, our buddy, Mr. Monday Morning here on Birds 365. And Jeff, we definitely want to talk to you about the Ravens and the Chiefs. Know you're in Baltimore during the game. But first things first, Eagles announced Saturday night, or at least the information was reported. They haven't officially announced it yet, that Kellen Moore is going to be their next offensive coordinator. Knew it was coming after they fired their previous DC and OC. Your thoughts on Moore as the next offensive coordinator in town? Is his new, fresh ideas going to be able to mesh with what Nick Sirianni wants to retain from the Eagles' offense the last 3 years?
Well, I like the hire a lot more than I like the Vic Fangio hire. I'll just say that. I think it is what this team needs. Talking to a couple Chargers players, they all had a ton of respect for Kellen Moore. If I was reading between the lines, I think they were sad to see him go, but that's what happens when you have a new head coach. And I think if the Chargers are healthy, the Kellen Moore hire is much more beloved in Philadelphia, or maybe Kellen Moore has a job in Los Angeles than coming over to Philly. But the Eagles do have a pretty good history of hiring Chargers offensive coordinators, so it could work out really well.
Yeah, that's true. Frank Reich, Shane Steichen, Chargers. Nick Sirianni worked with the Chargers, so they've gotten some luck with the Chargers. Why no Vic? Why no Vic, Jeff? Why don't you like the Vic Fangio hire? If you're going to run this scheme, it's better to have him than anybody else.
And that's the only reason why I like it. So I don't like how 6 days ago, this is a team that they want to completely abandon it. Then all of a sudden you get the guy and you're like, okay, let's.
I don't know if they did. That's the problem.
Who in power said that?
I think I said it, but I have no power.
Right. Yeah. Some people assumed it. I don't remember hearing Jeff Lurie or Nick Sirianni or Howie Roseman say.
Yeah, John McMullen said it.
But I don't have any power.
Let me repeat, power. Yeah. None of the three big.
Certainly have none of that, by the way.
You and I both. All three of us together. None of those guys came out and said, yes, and we're going to be looking to play a different style of defense going forward. They never said that.
They never said that, but why would they admit it too? But if you look at the guys they were looking at
talking they admitted that they're going with new, fresh ideas on offense. Sirianni sat up there and admitted,
because that's what the fans want to hear.
Is out of here. No, nobody said anything about drastically changing the type of defense they were going to play.
You know what? I didn't care about anything they said in that press conference on Wednesday because I thought that was one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen.
It was a disaster, by the way.
I tried not to shake my head at what they were saying. I just couldn't believe
because Jeffrey Lurie should have been up there. Jeffrey Lurie was the one who made this decision. He's not up there. So you got two guys up there who have to explain somebody else's decision. So it came off so disjointed. So I agree with you there. But defensively, yeah. I mean, look, I'm very above board. I don't like this scheme. I think too many people play this scheme. I think the league has caught up. But Vic has shown the ability to adjust and evolve his thought process over the years. He didn't start 30 years ago running this scheme. So there is that positive. And Jody and I were talking, he's going to be able to bring in some big-time assistant coaches, whether it's Barry, whether it's Mike Caldwell, Ronaldo Hill, people like that, who are former coordinators in this league. They should be better at the positional coach level just because of the reputation of Vic Fangio. So at the bare minimum, I think that's a positive.
I don't think you're going to get guys complaining about the communication issues in the secondary under Vic Fangio.
That's true as well.
Here's an interesting question for both you guys. And I know we're going way down the line, all the way to the draft and free agency and the like. We're probably jumping a couple of steps, but that's what we do. Vic Fangio's defense is reliant upon really good safety play. That's kind of a key to the whole Fangio thing. Disguising, safeties need to be flexible. You want to keep them looking like they're too high and then bring them into the play just as the ball's being snapped. The Eagles' last couple of years haven't been as dedicated to getting top flight safeties. You think Fangio's got the juice to walk into Howie Roseman's office and say, you got to get me 2-star safeties. You want this defense to work? You hired me. I need 2-star safeties. A Blankenship be a nice third guy, but you need to get me 2-star safeties. Will Howie take well to that if that's Fangio's desire?
I think he has to, right? If this is why you're bringing Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio in, you got to get the pieces in place, and especially on defense. That defense needs to be revamped. So if Vic Fangio says he wants the moon and the stars, you get him the moon and the stars. So I agree. I think safeties are going to be a priority for them. I actually think linebackers are going to be a priority for them because Vic Fangio does seem to value linebackers a lot more than the Eagles front office does. And again, this is all dependent on the Kobe Dean too, which the Eagles went out of their way to mention the Kobe Dean on Wednesday.
Yeah, they did.
You know, I didn't think anybody was going to ask us the Kobe Dean question there, John.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a long time. 30. I give the Eagles credit. At least they gave us 30 plus minutes. That's the one positive. Yeah. All right. You were in Baltimore. So explain to me, Travis Kelce had an historic game. I mean, I think they just targeted him again. He caught the pass. He broke Jerry Rice's records. He was phenomenal from basically the first, the first third down on. He was phenomenal. And yet, I think the best player on the field was Kyle Hamilton. We're talking about safeties. Now, Jody and I often disagree. One guy we agreed on was Kyle Hamilton. We
yes,
both
sir.
can take that check. How is that possible? He was unbelievable, Kyle Hamilton.
I mean, he was in position to basically knock down the pass Travis Kelce caught.
Yeah,
touchdown.
Even on the touchdown, which is the first touchdown, that's perfect coverage.
Yeah,
that's where
yep.
Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame tight end, perfect throw, perfect coverage. That's just high level football. But boy, yeah, Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson, but boy, another one. Playoffs come. I don't know what you want to call it, but he did not perform.
So I got a chance to talk to Steve Spagnuolo after the game in the locker room, and I said, "Hey, you guys know he was 5 for 13 when you guys blitzed 5 or more," and he kind of did that Spag smile and said, "Yeah, that was kind of the plan." He admitted it was the plan, but it wasn't the plan. And I got to Mike Danna, and yeah, that was the plan. It was, let's try to get him uncomfortable and see if he beats us, and he did beat him on the Zay Flowers touchdown when they blitzed, but. That definitely was, okay, we're going to send 5, we're going to send 6, we're going to take our chances, and whatever happens, happens. And they threw the kitchen sink at him. And
that the one play where he threw in the triple coverage. Look, the Zay Flowers play, what can you do? That's a great play. Inches. I mean, he's inches away from going.
John Harbaugh said it best too. There's nothing Zay did wrong. He said when we dive into the end zone, we dive with 2 hands. He dove with 2 hands.
Yeah.
So.
Right. What Zay did wrong was just a minute earlier where he made the big catch and stood over the receiver and tossed the football at him and cost him 15 yards. That was a bigger mistake than the fumble.
Steve admitted after the game too, he didn't even know he did that, because he was on the ground and they got penalties.
Yeah.
So what did he get a penalty for?
Yeah.
It was an obvious penalty, and it was a stupid penalty on Flowers. He played that like the rookie that he was. But here's my question about Lamar, and I know what his playoff record is, and it's not good enough, and he's going to have to deal with that, and he's going to take the slings and arrow for it. But he got beat by Pat Mahomes. Who beats Pat Mahomes?
Joe Burrow.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Josh Allen, is he a inveterate choker and should be run out? Lamar Jackson, run him out of the league. All right, you can't get past Patrick Mahomes. Nobody does. Burrow beat him once. Okay, we'll see what Burrow does again next year. How's Burrow played in the playoffs this year? Oh, he didn't make the playoffs this year. Patrick Mahomes is going to his 4th Super Bowl in 5 years.
Come on. He got hurt. I mean, he would have been in the playoffs, but he got hurt.
Part of it.
Maybe
not.
seems
to beat the Reed Mahomes combination. Pat is as even keel can be, by the way. He's in the locker room yesterday, just talking to his guys, he's checking his cell phone and he's so approachable. You just go up to him and say, "Hey man, good game," or you ask him a question, he'll answer it. He definitely has the
boy. I don't know what that's like with
no one knows it. By the way, John,
maybe that's Kansas City. Maybe that's the difference.
But by the way, John, yesterday, a couple of us got a warning during the game for talking.
Oh,
ever get that?
Chad Steele? No. I'm a professional though, Chad.
Yeah. Well, this is after when Kelce caught the touchdown to Zay. Again, this press box is really loud, and there's so many people in there. Everybody's going ooh and ah, and me and two of the Baltimore writers were breaking down the play, and I had another guy with CBS with me. Around 5 o'clock, I get an email. Hey, someone's complaining they can't do their job because you guys are talking. And
really?
And you know what I said? This is what I said back. My dad's famous words. If you can't put up, then I won't shut up. So pretty much who was it?
Kept getting booted out of the press box. I saw they had crab cakes. So it was a big game.
Oh, it was. And they were phenomenal, by the way.
biggest game in MT in what is it?
M&T Bank Stadium.
M&T Bank Stadium. Yeah, they just came up small. And it's not just Lamar. I mean, that offense as a whole, Todd Monken's gotten a lot of credit this year. Boy, if this were Philadelphia, he didn't run the ball at all.
6 carries by running backs. 6.
Yeah.
You have Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Dalvin Cook didn't play. And Lamar after the game was basically saying, "Look, we're trying to win. We're not going to apologize for trying to win." And I said, "Yeah, but you guys pressed. You were only out 10. You could have still ran the ball."
Yeah, strange. But big stage, maybe it got to him a little bit. You would think coming from Georgia, you're used to big stages, but certainly a lot of things you can second guess. But look, I mean, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what are we, 6 consecutive championship games? What are we at? I don't even know anymore.
Yeah, 6 straight, 4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
Oh, and by the way, both their conference championship game losses, those teams needed overtime to beat them.
And we are in the midst. We're going to get 2 weeks of just constant paralysis by over-analysis talking about this upcoming game. I'll say right off the bat, San Francisco's got a better roster, but I don't know how you go against Kansas City. I don't know how you go against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Same thing I said last year with the Eagles. The Eagles have a better roster from top to bottom, but they have the better coach and the better quarterback, and that carries a lot of weights.
And there's no fear in those guys. Like Isaiah Pacheco said yesterday, we just don't believe we're going to lose. And, it's Trent McDuffie told me just on a one-on-one yesterday, when they lost to the Raiders on December 25th, I brought it up, and he goes, "Yeah, I love how everybody counted us out after that. Like we're the stinking Chiefs." And that's just what they carry. They're the stinking Chiefs. It's awesome.
They get incrementally better through the year. At post Tyreek Hill, because they haven't been as explosive. And this year at times they were struggling offensively for the first time. And all of a sudden, Valdez-Scantling's making big plays at the end of games. He's dropping passes against the Eagles. I saw, nobody drops more passes than that Watson kid. He's catching passes. He caught a big ball. Rashee Rice has all of a sudden turned into a playmaker. Andy gets these teams incrementally better as the season goes on. And then you wake up there in the Super Bowl again and you go, oof, they look pretty good. It's pretty amazing.
Specifically yesterday, as great as Mahomes is, and yeah, he's the only guy who's in the conversation with Brady out of any of the quarterbacks in the league who someday may even get into the conversation of being the GOAT. And Andy Reid is phenomenal. They won that game because of defense yesterday. Patrick Mahomes put up 17 points. He scored 3 points from early second quarter on, and they won the game.
Patrick Mahomes.
That's the defense.
This is one of the stories I wrote about.
Patrick
Mahomes did not make the mistake yesterday that the Ravens made. The Chiefs did not make those
3
mistakes.
turnovers. Who got the turnovers? The Chiefs defense.
Well, Lamar fumbled.
Lamar got blindsided by a defensive end that he never saw.
Yeah, that was a great
that was a great
strip.
Play. Come on.
Yeah, that was a great strip sack by he got hurt too. And had to lead the game.
Amenahu.
No, the defense has been, this is the first time you could say arguably the defense is better than the offense in the Patrick Mahomes era in Kansas City. That said, though, I think good offensive teams can score against good defensive teams in the modern NFL. I always believe that. I believe back in the day, good defense would beat good offense. Today, I think the opposite. They're facing a good offense.
That's because of the rules. Can I just get this in? I meant this.
It is because of the rules. Yes,
right.
Of course.
And oh my God, did I see an example of it yesterday? I need both of you guys' takes on this. Second half, 49ers rallying. McCaffrey, who did next to nothing in the first half, rips off a couple of big plays in the second half. They had one play, and they had a great low-angle camera. He catches the ball in the flat. He's lined up wide, and Purdy makes a nice lead pass to him as he's turning upfield. And as a DB who's got a one-on-one shot to make a tackle, hold it to about a 4-yard gain. McCaffrey gets his hand in underneath his chin, over his face mask, and
they're
pushes
allowed
his face
to. Yeah.
like parallel to the ground. He
That
hit him
was
so hard in the
CJ.
face.
That was CJ.
Yeah, that was CJ, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was CJ Gardner Johnson. Yeah.
And there is no hands to the face call.
No.
In the NFL, everybody, any defensive player, God forbid you ever touch a player around the helmet and the flag is coming. Even offensive linemen, a defensive lineman coming at you, you get up underneath his chin, here comes the flag. But guys with the ball in their hands are allowed to do anything they want. He almost took BJ's head off, no flag whatsoever. You talk about rules benefiting the offense side of the ball. How can they even have that in place? You can't get an illegal hand to the face in the NFL if you have a ball.
You can, but you got to grab and twist. You got to grab it and you got to twist it, and you really got to be over the top. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
And CJ got the plexiglass on his face, so you can't grab and twist. So all you can do is smack him up underneath the chin, and that's exactly what McCaffrey did.
I mean, the advantages are 95% offense, and that's one of the reasons why I say, good offense beats good defense in this league now. It used to be the opposite. So as good as Kansas City, getting back to the original point, as good as the defense has been, if the 49ers show up with their A game offensively, they're going to score some points. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I think it's funny you brought that up, Jody, because I've talked to a couple of defensive players this year about the whole changing the touchback where you fumble the ball out of the end zone, the offense gets the ball back. And
why is that a conversation? Why is
you know why? Because people don't know what they're talking about. Like,
what do you mean?
I don't understand why so many are so upset.
If you fumble the football, you should be punished for it. Bottom line, you should be punished for it. If you want to extend that football past that plane and you don't have control of it and it goes out of the end zone, you lose the ball. Bottom line.
Oh, you're talking touchback off a fumble. I thought you meant touchback off a kick.
I don't. That's one where I got to be honest, and I don't know where either. I know where you are, Jeff. I don't know where you are, Jody. But I hear a lot of people complain about it, and that's one I don't even get. Like, what? I don't even know why that's a controversy.
The people who complain about it are the people who like to complain about everything, no matter what it is. The tush push, the illegal hands to the face, whatever, the coaching hiring cycle, anything they can get their hands on, they want to talk about.
You know what I think it should be? Because I do think it's a bit harsh. The defense is rewarded, and they didn't recover the football. Not only are they rewarded, they're rewarded all the way out to the 20-yard line, which just seems unfair to me. Here would be the compromise position, I would say. The offense keeps the ball since the defense didn't recover it, but they got to move it back out to the 20. Because if you're fumbling it at the 1 or the 2 and it's going through the back of the end zone, you should pay a price for it. I'd let the offense retain. Loss of down doesn't restart the clock. There's no change of possession. So wherever you are, second down, third down, or whatever, the markers stay the same, but the ball gets spotted at the 20-yard line.
The people that advocate for this, what do they want? To give the ball back to the offense?
Because they want more points, just like how people love in the NBA right now. Everybody's scoring 60 points.
I would give it back to the offense, but they have to pay a price. They got to move the ball all the way back out to the 20. And if it's third and goal from the 20, so be it. But the defense, and sometimes they don't even make a play. It's just sloppiness by the offense.
Well,
they're rewarded with the ball at the 20-yard
line. Because offensive coaches know the rule. They teach the players, like Zay Flowers, that's a difficult play, and he didn't do anything wrong. But they teach the players don't reach for the pylon if you're, take the ball at the half-yard line. To me, it's an egregious mistake from an offensive player if he's fumbling the football out of the end zone. So I've never had a problem with it. That's one of those where I go, I don't even know why there's a controversy. It's been that way forever. It's not like they changed the rule. That's one I don't even get. I'm like, I'm with you, Jeff. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Why there's so many other things that are legitimately questionable when it comes to officiating. That's been that way forever.
I don't like how at the end of last night's game, the Detroit Lions, they have to kick an onside kick, and the NFL
I hate
basically
that.
made it. It's impossible.
Yeah, but it's been that way forever. So why?
No,
it hasn't.
No,
it hasn't.
They changed the rules drastically for safety.
About lining guys up.
Guys
on one side, right?
Yeah, I hated that. Like, I think that's why the 4th and 15 thing is coming to play now, because the onside kick is useless.
Yeah. And they should. I don't like it. To me, it seems gimmicky, like 4th and 15, you get one shot or whatever. But they need to do something, because they have taken the onside kick out of the game completely, almost. And yeah, I'm with you. But that's been a recent change, Jody. The touchback rule has been in effect literally. I can't even tell you. I mean, I don't think there was ever a time when it was not in effect. It's always been that way. So that's one I don't understand. Dan Campbell, we got to talk about. Where are you guys on Dan Campbell? I have no problems. I talk about this all the time. That outcomes are not the same as decisions. We judge play results, not play calls. Josh Reynolds catch the damn football. The only reason the Detroit Lions are in this game is because of the way they play. And they put so much pressure on the opposing by using all 4 downs. But the perfect example of this is the first 4th down miss that everybody has a problem with.
And 3rd down, they were up 24-10, right? And
third, well, yeah. But it was 3rd and 4. And they ran the football. They put Amon St. Brown in the backfield, ran the football like he's a running back, and they get 2 yards. And people, what are you doing with Amon St. Well, they know they're going for it on 4th down. That's how they play. And that's the reason they're doing it.
And you know what? That Amon-Ra St. Brown play works more often than it doesn't. They normally get the 1st down on a play like that.
Well, even so, I mean, they're playing because they're calling that play. Ben Johnson's calling that play because he knows in the back of his mind, we're going for it on 4th down. Unless they lose like 2 yards, unless there's a negative play, a fumble. You get the point. If they're anywhere near it, 4th and 2 or less, minus 40 basically through the rest of the field, they're going for it. That's the reason they're here.
They won 4 football games this year going for it on 4th down like 5 or more times.
And I think a lot of people hate the term, and I hate the term analytics. Dan Campbell's talked about this. He doesn't go for it because analytics tell him to go for it, which I also think is funny. Like, analytics is in the corner office. I make that joke. I got a quote from analytics. They say, the numbers say, yes, go for it in that type of situation. But he doesn't do that. He does that because he saw, and he said this, he saw Sean Payton, who was one of the more aggressive coaches at the time in New Orleans.
He kicked an onside kick in the start of half of a Super Bowl.
Yeah. He saw how much pressure that would put on the opposition, and he liked it. And he said, I want to coach that way. And he's taken it, obviously, to a step further. But that first one is so indicative. Not only that's what they always do, it should have been successful, and the player didn't catch the football.
Which they won't mention, but they'll mention the decision Dan Campbell made.
Yes.
All right, here's my take. And I'm going to use a comma in the middle of the sentence, not a period, because you're right, John. I don't believe Dan Campbell does anything because of analytics. He's old school, tough guy. He makes his aggressive decisions by his gut, not by analytics. But here's my problem with both analytics and Dan Campbell, comma in the middle of the sentence. It's not an absolute. It doesn't have to be 98% of the time. You have to, hello, Philadelphia Eagles, and will defer. You have to be able to judge in the situation, in the circumstances of each individual game. There are times where you are better served not doing what you always do. Always is a problem with me. Always should never be used in describing anything in football because the game changes, the position changes, the down changes. That's my only problem here. Not the fact that Dan Campbell is aggressive and Dan Campbell wants to stay aggressive, and that's what made the Detroit Lions what they were that year. Yeah. But every once in a while, discretion is the better part of valor. And last night with the field goal, tied the game. I'm sorry, you got to take the points. Can't. You can't run the risk. And yes, I'm judging the results thereafter, but that's what we do. Guess what? The result is San Francisco's
Well,
going
they
to
lost
Super
the
Bowl.
game, so I get it.
Right. That's my only problem is you can't give me this is the way we've done it all year, so we must do it this
first
way
of all,
again.
I said
I got
Yeah, go ahead,
attitude here. There's one guy, everybody says Dan Campbell trusts his guys. Very true. But there's one guy he doesn't trust, and that's his backup kicker.
Well, yeah.
Michael Badger's the backup.
By the way, I was going to bring up the kicker as well. They don't have Justin Tucker. They don't have Jake Elliott, number one. We already saw a mediocre kicker in San Francisco missed a kick for the second
Shanahan put him
consecutive
back
week.
out there again, didn't he?
For the second consecutive week. No, I'm just saying the assumption that they're going to make these field goals. Nobody brings that up. The assumption that they're going to make these field goals. They also don't bring up that Josh dropped the football. But at the end of the half, Dan kicked the field goal. It's not an absolute. I said that's how they play. If you want to argue on the second fourth down, which was 4th and 3, and they were down 3, I believe.
Yeah.
I have no argument.
Game.
You can make that argument. You can make that argument. Maybe he should have tried the kick. But again, he doesn't have a lot of trust in his kicker. He's got more trust in his offense. So that's part of it. He also knows his defense isn't ready yet. And he also knows, guess what? If I tie this game, San Francisco is probably going to get the ball and score. And they got the ball and scored anyway. So he's trying to.
You know what I don't like, John? The whole, well, if he kicks it here, and if he
they're going to
kicks
get
it
the
here.
ball and score, well, if you kick the field goal, well, a field goal beats you. But the field goal kicker is a rookie on San Francisco.
No,
so
I'm saying you can make. I have no problem with people making the argument on the second one. But I will say
that's the whole argument.
No,
half,
a lot of people were
points.
bringing up the first one. Greg Olsen said throughout the game. Greg's great, by the way. I don't get to watch a lot of football. Greg Olsen's great. He said multiple times through the game, and the luxury of the announcers, they get these pregame sort of availabilities with the coaches. And Dan Campbell told him multiple times, we're not going to win this game with threes against San Francisco. He knew San Francisco was going to score some points. We got to score touchdowns. It worked early. It didn't work late. I don't have a problem with this decision making. It sucks. The results, I get it. Detroit hasn't been there in forever. They had the big lead. They blew it. I get it. That's what it's about at the end of the day. But I do think, again, as you step back and you look at it and say, hey, this is rare. This is rare for the Detroit Lions. They're not usually in this position. They're not even in this position to crap the bed if Dan Campbell didn't coach that team the way he coached that team, is kind of my point.
My thing is when they say, well, Dan Campbell gave up 6 points and the whole.
By the way, nobody talks about the Gibbs fumble or the Kendall Ballore intercept the damn football. Former Eagle great Kendall Ballore. I mean, intercept the football. It goes off his space, and Ayuk makes a great play. Even if you tell me, even if you had a crystal ball, guys, and told me these fourth downs aren't going to work, and I could have kicked the field goals. Maybe makes one, maybe misses one, maybe makes both. Those two plays had more impact on the outcome of the game. Gibbs fumbling the football. He's a great player, by the way. What are you going to do? He's had a great year. Great.
By the way, the Lions were right to trade DeAndre Swift.
Yes, they were. And build. I mean, at the bare minimum, you got to drop the interception. You can't let it go off your face mask. And Ayuk took advantage and made a great play. But those two plays were what lost Detroit that game, in my estimation.
Yeah. So early on, guys, who do we think is going to win the Super Bowl? I know I kind of know where you're leaning toward, John. Don't bet against Mahomes and Reed.
That was my take going into the game yesterday, why I picked the Chiefs to win the game. I'm not ready to commit yet, but there's a good chance that's where I'm going to land again. How do you pick against Patrick Mahomes? I think the 49ers are special and wouldn't be surprised. I've seen some already second guessing of Purdy because, they've fallen behind 2 weeks in a row and had to rally. What's more impressive? Like what Mahomes did yesterday, got the lead, kept them at bay, Baltimore had the ball back, could have tied it up within 7, or rallying from behind. I don't know about you, but I would say more impressive is rallying from behind. Your defense gets chewed up in the first half. Detroit's running through you like a hot knife through butter, and then Purdy rallies them. All right, granted, one very lucky play off a player's face mask that John was just talking about.
But that's part of it, right? Tom
Right.
Brady's got that in his career.
Exactly. Making plays, rallying in a team 2 weeks in a row. I think what Purdy's done is pretty damn impressive. Maybe it's just one of those years for San Francisco. That's probably what it's going to take to beat Patrick.
I was most impressed with the Brock Purdy discussion. You have these two extremes. Oh, he stinks or he's great. And it's really it's more in the middle.
Why can't we say top 10 quarterback and just call it a day?
Yeah, top 10 quarter. I would say, bottom of the top 10, but top 10 quarterback. He's had a great season. I think he did a tremendous job running the football, which people don't realize. And he's really smart. Like he understood, and that's rare for being such a young quarterback. Yeah, he understood when Detroit was in man coverage and they were turning their backs, and he just took it. And that's smart. That is smart, instead of just saying that, and it was impressive. And I don't know why so many people, because I'm one who didn't believe it. Jody knows that, but I give the guy credit.
You just called him bottom of the top 10, John. I could ask you, please give me the 8 quarterbacks who are better than Brock Purdy.
Well, I having better seasons or better quarterbacks.
Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson.
Keep going. Justin Herbert, Kellen Moore. This is what I'm talking about. The extremes.
The show is going to get off the rails here. How many playoff games is Tua won?
Why is that Tua's fault?
Yeah, again, it's not quarterback versus quarterback.
Who's put up better numbers? Tua? What do you want to argue results, or you want to argue numbers? Purdy beats him in both.
He has the best. It's not his fault, but he has the best roster in football. I mean, that's part of it, Jody.
What upsets me about all this Brock Purdy talk? We did not waste this energy 25 years
That's
ago.
What I'm talking about. Extremes. Like it's either he's got to be the best. He's not the best, but he's very good. That's not an insult.
I say he's top 5. You say he's top 10. There's a difference.
And by the way, either way, that's top 10 ain't an insult.
No, it's not.
Well,
if
you believe someone's in the top 5 and you say they're the bottom of the top 10, yes, I would consider that an insult.
Well, it's not, but you can. Okay. I mean, I can't force you not to consider it an insult. But anytime I say anybody is a top 10 quarterback, I'm not insulting them.
It's not a knock on Brock Purdy when you do mention, if this guy is. He's the only guy you mentioned this, by the way. If this guy's hurt, if this guy's not on the field, his rating is this and his yards per attempt is this. I mean, it's not his fault. He has the best roster in football, but you take those guys away, he's just the guy.
Right. But if you took Purdy away, what would happen to San Francisco? Yeah. Sam Darnold, really?
Well, I know what happens when you take Purdy away and you have San Francisco. They still go to the conference championship game because they've done that.
Yeah, they have the best roster.
When was that?
What do you mean?
3 times in the last 4 years before this year.
Jimmy Garoppolo. But that's one of the things I'm impressed because, Jody, I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo. You never heard me say Jimmy Garoppolo is a top 10 quarterback.
And Brock Purdy's way better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
And I agree. And one of the things, but they were a really good team, and they won a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo because they John Lynch deserves a lot of credit. Kyle deserves a lot of credit. I say going into this game, they have a better roster than Kansas City. If I pick Kansas City in the end, and that's where I'm leaning, but we'll see. I got 2 weeks to talk myself out of it. I've been saying for years San Francisco is the best team in football, and they've done a tremendous job. If you just look at the number of good players, they got more than anybody else.
This is the best pass rush the 49ers are going to face all season in the Super Bowl. Of course, I said that last year, and the Chiefs shut the Eagles pass rush down. So things crazier things.
Wait. It was the field in Arizona that shut the Eagles pass rush down. Didn't you learn that lesson, Jeff Kerr?
Did you? Yeah, but did you see the field in Vegas a couple weeks ago?
I think the field will be okay. They won't make the same mistakes they made in Arizona by taking the field out.
Eagles fans, the Eagles aren't in it, so they don't have to screw the Eagles.
You know what I don't like about, honestly, the 49ers? I get tired of hearing, well, if Brock Purdy was healthy in the NFC Championship game, we would have blew out the Eagles. Well, he wasn't healthy.
I don't care about their bands, but I mean, they're really good. They're really good, and he's part of it. And he deserves a lot of credit, and he made a lot of plays. But it's also fair to point out, the ball's off the base mass. There were a couple bad decisions. There's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time. Lamar Jackson's one of the best quarterbacks in football. He had a shitty game. Everybody's got shitty games. Everybody's got shitty plays. He's not perfect, but to me, top 10's not an insult.
I saw Cowboys fans say, why don't they use the same energy for Lamar as they do for Dak when it comes to playoff narrative? And they use like a playoff record. I said,
I think they do.
I said they do. I said, but here's the big difference. Lamar's played in the conference championship game. Let me know what Dak gets there.
Very true. And Mr. Purdy has played in 2 consecutive championship games, which is pretty good when you've only been in the league 2 years.
I think he's the only quarterback to do that. I could be wrong.
Well, Patrick didn't
Well, in his first 2 seasons, Patrick sat out.
Patrick 6 for 6 since he became the starter. That's pretty good.
That's not bad either. There's Patrick Mahomes, and then that's one thing none of us will disagree about. There's number one, and then we can argue everybody else.
By the way, Jody, I got.
By the way, he didn't have the best season, but he's still the best quarterback. Patrick Mahomes.
By the way, I got to give you my Taylor Swift story before I
Yes, please.
I did not see her yesterday, but
you didn't see her once? Were you on the wrong side of the stadium so you couldn't see into the suite?
No, I couldn't see her, but I got to see the other one. I got to see the other guy that they like to talk about a lot. Her boyfriend, Travis.
Yeah, he had an okay game.
Yeah, by the way, he wouldn't speak to the media yesterday. He spoke to me, but he didn't speak to the media.
Really?
That's right. He spoke to you. He didn't speak to the media. Now that's an unfair shot, Jeff.
Well, I mean it was more of a what's going on, Travis. Congrats on going to the Super Bowl again. Gives me the fist pump, calls me Jeffy, like you couldn't
get.
By the way, Jeff was on the New Heights pod because he took a picture of Jason Kelsey's populated locker. I should say,
to say the least. That's being kind.
Yeah. So Jason gets all this free crap for his podcast. By the way, why aren't we getting free crap? Jason's got a little bit more swag, but anyone who wants to send Jody and I free crap, feel free.
What about 2-year-old Girl Scout cookies?
Yeah. So Jason has all the stuff in his locker. Jeff took a picture of it. They put it on New Heights, and Jeff became a star. Congratulations, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. I was laughing when I got the text from the New Heights people. They're like, oh, by the way, you might want to turn on the 11-minute mark. I'm like, oh, my God.
Very nice. You got the 11-minute mark at least twice over with us today.
All right.
Jeff Kerr, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you again next Monday.
Yep. Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
That's Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. Hey, Birds fans, here's your chance to save upwards of 40% on your car insurance right now from one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you do. Call managing partner Jim or Fran and tell them you're a friend of both JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, managing partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Appreciate Jeff Kerr jumping in with us here on Birds 365. You got Mac here, McMullen and McDonald. Rob Groats, our buddy, the Prince of Darkness, is going to join us coming up in less than 10 minutes from now. Did want to ask you a couple of Johnson questions, John, before we punch Groats up. Number one.
Ben Johnson.
He's gonna now immediately go into the mix for the two jobs that are still open. I think there's a really good chance he's going to get the Commander's job. They've done a couple of interviews, but I think they've been waiting all along to be able to hand the job to Ben Johnson. Just a guess on my part. Don't know if it will happen, but I staunchly believe that. And Brian Johnson did get 2 interviews, or I think he had one. He's going to get another one for an offensive coordinator position. The Eagles, for about 24, 48 hours, cling to the belief that, he can get an offensive coordinator job, and then we won't have to fire him, and then we'll get compensatory draft picks because he leaves our organization to become a head coach. Yeah, it wasn't happening. He wasn't getting a head coaching job. So now he's a fired OC. Well, so was Kellen Moore, and the Eagles immediately scooped him up to be their new OC. You think Brian Johnson's going to get either one of these 2 gigs?
I don't think he's the first choice, but sometimes you don't get, and you end up getting a job that way. But I don't think he's going to have any problem getting a job. He might have to take a step back, go back to being a
quarterback
coach, or maybe one of those other titles that people are making up, senior offensive analyst or assistant, and they do it that way. So I'm not sure if he's going to get offensive coordinator title, but he'll land on his feet. He's much more well regarded around the league than in Philadelphia. I don't think there's any doubt he'll have a pretty. I would think it would go that direction. If he doesn't get one of the OC jobs, it'll be like senior offensive assistant. It'd be in between sort of quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator. Like Marcus Brady was here last year, who's also getting a bunch of OC interviews, by the way.
And I don't know Marcus Brady all that well, and I don't even know exactly what his responsibilities were this year and what he did or didn't contribute. But if he's at least getting interviews, that's a pretty good sign for Marcus Brady. I'd be surprised if Brian Johnson got one of the OC gigs left. The Eagles did not have a good offensive year. Expectations are, if you just look at the stats and where they fell and where they ranked, they're pretty good. You can't, oh my God, they're tumble up. No, of course they weren't, because they've got a whole bunch of talent. It's the same thing as judging Brock Purdy and saying, yeah, but look at all the talent he's got. I could do the exact same thing with Brian Johnson. Look at all the talent he had in Philadelphia, and that's what they did offensively. I think you have to do that, and I think that plays against Brian Johnson. That's why I don't think he's going to get an offensive coordinator gig. If he does, I'll give him props. I'll lead Crow and say, yeah, he is more highly thought of across the league than maybe I thought. But off this year, I'm not sure that he gets an offensive coordinator position.
Well, I'm with you. I think it's, because, anytime somebody gets fired, and essentially, no matter what the Eagles want to frame it as, that's what happened. It becomes difficult to sell it in other cities. There's that portion of it. And you're right. Everything's about expectations. That's why Nick Sirianni lost power, because
Correct.
he didn't reach the expectations of Jeffrey Lurie. And we've talked about that for years. Jeff, when you don't meet expectations, people are going to pay. And that's what happened in Philadelphia. On the other, a better offense than the Chargers. And that's where we're going. So they had a pretty good quarterback. Now, they didn't have a very good running game this year. That certainly, I'm sure it got skewed a little bit by the injury late when he wasn't playing. Justin Herbert, I'm talking about. But I mean, that's you put a fresh new coat of paint on these guys, and all of a sudden, people are excited about Kellen Moore, who was piloting a worse offense last season than Brian Johnson. I mean, if you're talking about results, like, we go both ways. You're saying, well, Brock Purdy's great. I say, well, look at the supporting cast. He's top 10. Maybe he's not top 5. In the case of Brian Johnson technically had a better offense than Kellen Moore last season. Now, you're right. He had better talent, but it's not like Kellen didn't have good talent. I would argue he had more talent at the quarterback position. People crap on me for that, but Justin Herbert's really good.
So let me ask you about that.
As you will.
Yeah, this is one that we're probably going to disagree on. I think Justin Herbert has been elevated a little too quickly. The results, he puts up numbers, but they're kind of hollow numbers to me. And the age-old argument of wins and how much you put in that in the quarterback column and the like. Harbaugh are going to come in there and just take Justin Herbert to another level because he's Harbaugh?
I don't know. This game has moved quickly. When Jim was in the NFL before, he was a really good coach. Really good. A lot of people didn't like him, but was a really, really good coach. And the league has changed so drastically since he was here and he's been in college. I don't know what we're going to see from Jim Harbaugh. I really don't. So that's a wait and see sort of approach. And by the way, I think Kellen Moore's a good hiring. I just think it's interesting that, again, the fresh coat of paint versus the guy who was here, and the assumption, everything about Brian Johnson being bad has to do with the expectations, nothing more. Maybe he didn't live up to the expectations. He didn't, certainly from Jeffrey Lurie's perspective. But again, on paper, they had a better offense than the Chargers. And the Chargers, on paper, have a better quarterback, at least according to most people around the NFL.
Yeah, I'd call quarterback about a push. Jalen Hurts is compared to Justin Herbert. I'd put him on basically the same level of accomplishment that they've had in their career. Now, one was drafted high in the first round, one was drafted in the second round. I try and move off that as soon as possible. I think too many people stay dug into where you were drafted and what your expectations are great, and everybody deals with expectations. You and I are talking about expectations, and that's why Brian Johnson's out of a job. The Eagles didn't make their expectations. but expectations years down the road from where you were drafted, that's just silliness as far as I'm concerned. But I do believe some national pundits cling to that. Well, your expectations were, after you played 2 years in the league, where you were drafted becomes irrelevant. Doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I don't think he's good because of,
bar.
I don't think he's good because of, I mean, I think he's really good. It's got nothing to do with where he's drafted. I think he's really, really good and really talented. And, you know, if Jim Harbaugh is as good as he was in San Francisco, this is the best quarterback he's ever had. So he's going to do some special things if he's the same guy from a coaching perspective. So, you know, but I'm just putting it into the conversation with the Eagles' expectations now with Kellen Moore, because guess what? He's coming into these expectations now. And he's supposed to be better. So right now, you know, whatever you want to look at the offense and where the Eagles were, top 10 offense, I forget where they finished. I'll have to look it up. Second on third down offense, maybe first on fourth down offense. These are pretty high bars, buddy. These are pretty high bars to reach. But he's going to have a lot of talent, and he better reach them.
And the other place that Kellen Moore interviewed was Cleveland. And, oh, by the way, there are expectations there. He had his choice of, do I want to work with Deshaun Watson or I want to work with Jalen Hurts? The expectations are very big in both places, more so here in Philadelphia, at least on the offensive side, than it is in Cleveland. But he chose.
Well, the other big difference, he's not calling plays in Cleveland. He's calling plays here. So it's a better spot for him from that perspective.
And if you believe Nick Sirianni that there's going to be this perfect mesh between his new ideas and the things that Sirianni wants to cling to on his offense. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. Mac Birds 365. We're on the mobile. Coming up next, we're back in the car of one Bob Groats from the Delco Times. Mr. Groats joins us here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac with you on Birds 365, and we have the man, the myth, the legend, live from his car. Why, every time Bob Groats joins us, do I think of the Cash Cab? Either one of you guys watch that show?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Hey, do I have time to put some lipstick on?
Lipstick? No, the guy in the Cash Cab would never. He's a tough New Yorker.
Isn't it Ben Brown or something?
Yeah.
Ben,
I love that show. I love it.
So do I. And
Cash
that's a
Cab.
compliment I'm paying you, Bob Groats, that you remind me of the Cash Cab guy.
Throw out the questions. I'm ready. Yeah, 500.
For $500, here is the next question. Kellen Moore will be a perfect fit with the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni in the new Eagle offense. Can't get this one wrong. It's an opinion question. Yay or nay, that the hire of Kellen Moore was a good one by the Eagles this weekend?
False.
Ooh.
Why? I don't know if people, his offense in both Dallas and in LA with the Chargers, it's an interesting offense, but it exposes the quarterback to hits. It truly does. There's a lot of hot reads and stuff. Unless, if it's going to be his offense, and I think it is. Listen to Nick. It exposes. You go back and look at the injuries to Herbert and to Dak with in the Kellen Winslow offense. It's interesting. I happened to be at Merrill Reese's conference championship party yesterday, and ate so much I can't even get into my jeans today.
I didn't get the invite. What the hell's up with Merrill?
Man,
Come on, I didn't get that invite.
Neither did I, big guy.
Well, I didn't either. I crashed the party. I went up to the front door asking for directions, good job. Yeah. So, I'm talking about that there. And, the guys there, I should say Merrill loves the guy. He thinks he's a perfect fit, and I told him, he's a perfect fit if you want to expose your quarterback to a lot of hits. I they're going to have to do something with that because you can't just Hurts is you're going to live and die with Hurts, just like they lived and they died with Dak. And even if you look at the numbers of the quarterbacks, Herbert, he got hurt. He played 4 fewer games this past year than he did the previous 2 seasons. In LA. Played all 17, right? That to me, that's the offense. You can get hurt. I understand, injuries and all that stuff. But this offense, man, he takes some unnecessary hits, in my opinion. And so did Dak, who went from 20 and 15, something like that, with touchdowns to interceptions 2 years ago to like 36 and 9 this year. I don't think it's, it's going to be fun to see how this thing unfolds, but you cannot expose the guy to hits, especially not after you paid him all that money. And he is the man.
The one thing about Kellen Moore's offense is, Bob, they do what the Eagles didn't do this year. So is this the typical Jeffrey Lurie overreaction? He flips on WIP. They can't deal with the blitz. Kellen Moore was number 1 against the blitz in Dallas's last season there. They never used motion. Kellen Moore's top 10 using motion. Is this the typical sort of pendulum swing back to what you don't do because Jeffrey's not happy?
I see that. I see some of that. And they definitely, they got to use motion. And they started using it later in the year. but it didn't look like
meaningless motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It didn't
Well,
seem to have
you
a
know,
purpose.
you could argue, and even, at times the teams that use it really well, like San Francisco, we saw yesterday, there's a bunch of times they just use motion for motion's sake, and there's no real design behind it other
Well,
than trying to.
it helps you identify what defense the
Yeah.
opponent is in and what they're going to play. I think somebody pointed that out when Kansas City did it.
Yeah.
The defense starts moving around, and
Yeah, you're testing the eye discipline of the defense, basically.
absolutely, and you're figuring out what play you're going to go into. But that's for a real advanced guy like Mahomes. So,
Yeah.
and a guy like that could do it. Could Hurts do that? Yeah. I mean,
I was going to say, isn't that kind of a challenge to Jalen to become that guy?
Oh,
Advanced
absolutely.
guy, be able to think on his feet, guy, be able to read more succinctly than he did this past year. That's not too much. Should they still be babying Hurts?
No, I think that's a great point there, and I think he could do that. It doesn't have to be. I mean, motion. It takes a little while to do it, like as well as Mahomes does it, obviously. But that will help. Hurts he's a student of the game. That would help him identify the defenses and where to go with the ball. And I think watching Mahomes yesterday, and just another sparkling lesson in where to go with the ball. I mean, it's just unreal, unscripted, scripted. The guy just found the open man, and for the large.
Andy's a big part of that as well. I mean, Andy's a big part. I think Andy deserves his flowers today. But one of the things you brought up, hot routes, because that's another issue. The Cowboys were really good at it with Kellen Moore. But that's about on the field. That's about
really
teaching
good.
stuff and during the week. On the field, that's the quarterback and the receiver recognizing and being on the same page. Yeah.
No, absolutely. But you say really good. I don't know how good they were.
Well, they were number one in 2022 against the
but
Blitz.
Look at their record. I mean, what did that get them? And Dak got beat up too. So I don't, and they had a pretty good run game too. So I am really. It's going to be fun to see, how they use this offensive line that maybe underperformed a little last year, how they mesh that with a run game. And to me, if you look at the playoffs here, it's clear that, the run game is, I know we have arguments about this, John, but you got to be able to run the ball.
Well, you got to be able to run the ball December. Nobody cares until December.
And January, I mean, look at Baltimore. Baltimore, to me, it was a great game plan by not only Andy Reid but Spagnuolo. I mean, he just dared Lamar to beat him from the pocket, and they took it up. I thought Lamar would run some more. He was effective when he did, but they just abandoned the run, and it was still a close game. And it was
they make plays. Flowers gets the football in. Lamar doesn't.
They get 2 touchdowns. You're right. But they shouldn't even have that margin of victory.
Can I ask a question of you two astute football minds? Because I'm sounding like a broken record with this, and I know people are probably tired of hearing it, but it continues to boggle my mind. How does Kelsey get as wide open as he is? He's not running a 4.5 40 anymore. He's not 22 years old anymore. I give her credit to Rashee Rice. He really has stepped up and become a very viable second option. And Marcus Valdez-Scantling made a nice catch yesterday. We dropped the football all year long. He's the guy. How is a defense as good as Baltimore's allow him? He's targeted 11 times yesterday. Now, he made the one unbelievable catch over Kyle Hamilton who had perfect coverage. That's just a great athletic play and a great throw by a great quarterback. I get it. But on those other 10 catches, he was wide open like 7 times. How do you allow a guy like Kelsey to get open in the Kansas City? If they had to, San Francisco's got more weapons. They got McCaffrey coming out of Bath and Ayuk and Kittle and Debo. So that's really difficult to defend. You got Travis Kelce and, Rashee Rice. They didn't throw the ball out of the backfield to anybody yesterday. How does he get as wide open as he does? It continues to boggle my mind, Bob Krause. Please explain.
Yeah. Well, and not only does he get wide open, he gets wide open right where he needs to be, right at the sticks for a first down in the end zone. I mean, it just that's got to be, that's preparation, and he has a chemistry. Let's face it, with Mahomes, those two guys, they can they read the defenses the same way. But you're right. I mean, he does not run like he used to. He's been hurt
but
most
yet
of the
there's
year.
separation on
Yeah.
every single play.
Yeah.
How do you not have two guys on him?
And that thing I was just talking about, like, it's just amazing. He's like a video how to do it tape about where to go, where the sticks are. Make sure you're at the sticks. That is just that should be required viewing, by all the receivers.
Yeah, he just beat Jerry Rice's playoff record. It's amazing. And he had, I think, 11 targets yesterday, 11 receptions.
Yep.
But for all the talk, the Ravens defense played well enough to win.
They did, especially
Kyle
in the
Hamilton.
half,
But
yeah.
So Steve Spagnuolo does deserve a lot of credit. Now, since we're talking defense, I got to get Vic Fangio info from you, Bob.
I think that's a great hire. I like that. I know
you like it.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like the scheme. Here's the thing.
Yeah, I think he's the Jim Johnson of this era.
Ooh, that's high praise.
I mean,
and he did change. He changed against that game plan he put together. It was one game, but even against the Eagles, he had real good game plans with limited personnel, a ton of injuries, and he had them in that game in Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City doesn't score a lot of points, but they were still in the game until late, and Kansas City's defense was killing Tua. So I mean, they were going 3 and out, but his blitzing, I mean. And people think that he doesn't blitz. He
doesn't blitz a lot. He blitzes less than the Eagles.
He did against Mahomes in the playoffs.
Well, he had a top 10 defense statistically with the Dolphins. Had some injuries late, but they were the 22nd, I think, ranked scoring defense. And he's been a defensive play caller, I believe, for 23 or 24 years, somewhere in that range. Very long time, almost a quarter century. He's got top 5 defense 5 times in 23 years. The last great defense he had was in Chicago, where they were number 3. If you go back to 2022, the Eagles were number 2. Have the Eagles hyped this guy up too much? Are people going to see this and expect the savior? And the numbers say it's probably not going to be that, especially with this personnel.
It'll be a good defense. It might not be that right away. The back end of that defense is just bereft of talent. I mean, they have
that's part of the problem.
And even if you start looking at those Georgia defensive tackles, I mean, they need to step up. Those guys,
well, they definitely
ran out of gas. I mean,
you got to build on those guys.
Yeah.
You got to build the foundation on those guys.
They're gonna let Fletcher Cox go probably in free agency, and I think he is. I think this guy's legit. I think he's really good, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, John. He's going to have guys, and they're not going to. This defense with Vic Fangio, it's not going to beat itself. Not like
if you're going to run the scheme, I've said pretty consistently, this is the guy you want to run this scheme. My question is, do you want to keep running this scheme? That's my question.
Yeah, but here's my question about you guys. If not Fangio, then who? Do we want to go Wink Martindale? Really?
No.
I know it would be the most popular hire here in Philadelphia because he's blitz crazy, but is that where you wanted to go?
Yeah, they don't have personnel to do that either. They don't have the blitzers. Yeah, you need some real quality guys, at linebacker and in the secondary to pull that off. I don't see that on their team,
I don't criticize the Eagles because they wanted experience. They didn't want a young guy. I would prefer, if you're asking me, Jody, I'd prefer the next young guy who's got innovative, the Ben Johnson of defense. Find me that guy. I don't know, maybe Evero. He seems to be well regarded, but the Eagles wanted experience. If they want experience, you can't get better than this guy. So I don't criticize the hire. And everybody loves him here. Jeffrey loves him. Howie loves him. Nick loves him.
The guy.
They took their shot with the young guy last hire with Sean Desai. He had only been a
Well, yeah,
one-year
that's why they're not going to
defensive
do it.
coordinator. So you knew that it was coming. They weren't going to go down that road. They wanted an experienced guy, and Fangio's the best of that lot.
Yeah, I no question in my mind. I mean, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised that I don't think that he's very adaptable.
I think they'll be better taught. I will say that. I don't think you'll see as many communication issues on the defensive side of the ball. Guys blowing coverages all over the place.
Just simply guys lining up for start.
Yeah, there we go.
Lining up where they're supposed to be. How can you tackle if you're not in position? I mean, at the end of the year, it was pathetic. I mean, guys, people's bumping into each other, because they're out of position to begin with, and blocking each other and taking each other out of the play. I mean, that was the worst Eagles defense I've seen in 30 years covering the.
What about Bill Davis? A lot of people forget the Bill Davis, Chip Kelly era. It's a bad defense.
Yeah, but that was skewed by the fast break offense. That defense was gassed.
It's like having Doug Moe as your basketball coach. Yeah.
Who was the guy? Kerry? What was his?
Kerry Williams.
Kerry Williams on the outside.
Sconces. Yeah, had to
he
go.
Right? Was he
had to
right
go
about that?
sconce shopping. Yeah, he was completely right. Kerry Williams.
4 games into the season, our legs are dead.
Yeah. Jason Peters was just he was not happy with Chip Kelly anyway.
All right, a question for you, Mr. Groats. Opening week next week, Philadelphia Eagles, the Vic Fangio defense ready to roll. Will James Bradbury be one of the starting cornerbacks?
Yeah, good question. I don't know how much money they'd have to eat and how big a consideration that would be. That's a lot of money, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
They can spread it out over 2 years. They can make it a post June 1st cut.
I think they got to move on. I think they got to move on from one of them. And I don't think they're moving on from Slay. So
cornerbacks just don't grow on trees. I mean, I think he would definitely play better with Fangio back there. And you can't. I mean, and you're gonna laugh at me again, Jody. You can't blame this all on Bradbury. I mean, he was the only guy that played most of the year or played the whole year back
and he was accountable. He admit I love James Bradbury. Just great guy.
Yeah, he had a really bad year.
A bad year.
Yeah, his legs were dead. I mean, he might be playing hurt too. So, but I think he'd probably be better than what you got. So, are you going to take a cap hit? I don't know. But they need help. They need safeties. I mean, let's be honest about that. That's a huge need. They're going to have to go out and find a couple of.
Could have had Kyle Hamilton a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
went a different direction.
They had Jordan Davis, right?
Yeah, Jordan Davis here. Jason Kelsey, you mentioned
and the
a little
funny thing
bit.
about, could I just add this because I remember it distinctly. The Raven fans who are now living large with Kyle Hamilton. If the Eagles hadn't traded up to get in the position that they did, the Ravens would have taken
Jordan Davis. Yes, they would.
They absolutely were. Kyle
have.
Hamilton was their secondary choice because the Eagles got in position to take Jordan.
That's the reason they traded up.
We knew Kyle Hamilton. What a genius selection, Kyle. No, he wasn't. Your guy was going to take the same guy the Eagles took, except the Eagles beat.
That is hilarious.
That is the reason they traded up. Yes, because they knew the Ravens were taking Jordan
dumb
Davis.
luck. They ended up with the Pro Bowl guy.
Yeah. All right, you've been here since day one. You talked a little. I think Fletcher might retire.
I think he's coming back. But I think
Jason Kelsey, you've been here from day one.
Yeah.
Is he retired? He
Yeah,
talked to Olivia yesterday. Olivia went down, Reiner from the Inquirer. She was in Baltimore. He talked to her. He's leaving it open still. Is that just because Travis is still playing? Is he coming back? Because I got the feeling he wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, with that blog or blogcast, whatever, what do they have? What do they call it?
Podcast.
Blogcast, yeah. They're saving something from an announcement for that. Who knows? You know what? Maybe his brother retires too.
No, he already said he's coming back. But maybe he wins. Travis said he was coming back. Yeah.
Before the end of last year, I think things could change, you know. And
if he wins again, he's got Taylor Swift.
Yeah. I mean, And if she dumps him, he can always come back to football. Like if he needs something to do.
Like Gronk come out of retirement.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I guess that's a possibility.
Brock-
I'm on record. Both Kelce's play from day one next year. Nobody's retiring. Jason's not retiring.
Oh, wow.
And here's the difference with me with Jason. Had the Eagles made a run, if they won the Super Bowl, then he walks off into the sunset. Nobody argues that. But if they had advanced in the playoffs, gotten to a championship game, maybe went back to the Super Bowl, lost again, lost to his brother again, then I think he could have walked away. They folded. Their season ending was an abomination. Jason Kelce want to go out on that note? The career that he's had here in Philadelphia, going to be a Hall of Famer, probably first ballot. And, oh, by the way, his team lost 6 of their last 7 games, and they were ugly as all get out. You want to end your career on that final paragraph? I don't think so. I think he's coming back.
I don't even know that they get in the playoffs next year. Do you? They may win.
If they don't make the playoffs next year,
I don't know, man.
We're doing this again, man. Everything is gutted. Everything is gutted.
I mean, you look at the teams in the Final Four. Did the Eagles beat any of them the way that they're playing? I mean, and I know you could talk.
They could be right back. You make good decisions. This league is
Final Four of all
the
national
NFL,
football, or just the NFC.
I don't see it.
You got to get through the NFC first. So,
and another thing we haven't talked about, I think they need a right tackle.
Not yet, but
I think
Lane's coming back.
I think he wore down. I think they need to, maybe this draft you can get somebody like that.
Well, you always want to draft the guy early.
Yeah, well,
you want to draft the guy early.
If they need to, with all they have to do during this off season, you're saying right tackle is a position they need to draft? Holy mackerel!
They're showing some age, and
they might already have the answer at right tackle after Lane Johnson. You never know with Tyler Steen. They think he's going to be a guard, but he seems better at tackle to me. And who knows? He might develop.
Tyler Steen, he's going to be their left guard, their right guard this year. You're right that Jason Kelce's walking away, that means Jurgen's going to center, means Steen's going in the guard.
I say put Landon Dickerson in the middle. He was the Remington Award winner. He'd be great there. Guy remembers every line call that was since the time he got here. Very, very smart.
Yeah, he played some center this year when Cam was hurt.
And then you could put Steen at left guard,
But they don't want to move Landon away from Jordan. They're like best friends. They're thick as thieves, and they destroy sides in the running game.
I think Landon Dickerson would give him just a huge advantage in the middle and in the interior of that line, and that's a real critical area. Look at some of the teams that made it, to the Final Four, and look at their interior. I know there was an injury on
Joe Thuney was hurt.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter. Kansas City wins anyway.
Mahomes, but very strong up the middle. They had a great pivot. So did Baltimore, and I'm not sure that maybe Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, Tyler Linderbaum. He's a good player at Baltimore. But
Jurgens did all right at right guard.
Frank Ragnow is tremendous. Always banged up, but he's tremendous with Detroit. San Francisco, I forget their center's not great. Who is it? Brendel? He's not great, but most of them have really good centers.
Yeah, I think the Eagles have to go back to the playoffs next year. If not, Bird Street.
Oh, they're button. They're Sirianni's gone. Moore's gone. Vic, he might retire. He's 65.
And he's going in. He's kind of a lame duck going in here too.
Oh yeah, he's not kind of
emasculated with these coordinator changes.
Jody likes hot seat, whatever you want to call it, lame duck.
Lame duck when you got 2 years to go on your deal. I'm sorry, you can't use.
Well, that's
phrase.
Semantics. He's coaching for his job. Is the point? There's no doubt about it. He's coaching for his job.
Even the free agents can look at the writing on the wall. They're going to go, do I want to go here? Do I want to sign like a 3 or 4 year deal with this team?
If they're giving the most money, yeah.
Oh yeah, it all comes down to the best deal.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's just that. I think they can get the money somewhere else. But do I want to go to this situation where I don't even know who the head coach could be? That's kind of uneasiness that is very un-Eagle like. in the past few years.
Well, that's what happens when you take the power away from the head coach. Point at Jeffrey Lurie there, Bob. He took the power away from the head coach. So they're in this position because of Jeffrey Lurie. By the way, who should have been up there answering questions last week, Bob? Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think that would have been good. Yeah, especially in light of the status of Nick. Now, in fairness, they never said that they were going to. I mean, it was
but but it's pretty clear he took away some autonomy from Nick Sirianni, and he's the one doing it, so he should be the one answering the question.
He's never been a vote of confidence guy, like some other people. And those votes of confidence, as soon as they give them, like you can just count the days until whoever it is gets axed, So,
here's the one defense I'll give of Jeff Lurie, and know full well I've got tongue partially implanted in cheek here. If you put Jeff up there, then you're just making Nick Sirianni out to be a bigger liar than he already is.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be questions that are asked that Nick's going to have to lie about, because he's not going to go, well, Jeff just stripped me. He's not going to say that with Jeff sitting right next to him. So he's going to have to lie. And we saw all his lies this year. And you need a coach who the players have to look at him and go, are you lying to me again?
Yeah.
So you couldn't put Sirianni in that position.
I thought he was candid at this thing. As candid,
he tried to be. He tried to be as candid as he could be.
More open than I've seen him. Yeah. So it was kind of like he had some kind of understanding with Howie, like, all right, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging, I'm going to make, I'm going to let people know what my decision. I got that.
If you're going to go down swinging, you're out. Went down swinging. Doug Peterson went down swinging. Sirianni said, okie doke. I'm going to take my medicine.
Yeah, I don't think Doug had a great plan. And he also had Carson Wentz thing working against him. That's not good,
Well, they got rid of Carson.
Yeah. I mean, but
Jalen loves Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
Jalen loves Doug Peterson.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Bob Groats.
He wasn't
the great Bob Groats.
In that
Delco Times. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bob.
He wasn't real happy in that last Doug Peterson game against Washington.
No, he wasn't.
Got pulled for Nate Sudfeld. Remember that?
Come on, the great Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah.
The unstoppable. No, that's what Jeffrey called him.
Great
the
Nate,
unstoppable.
All right.
Nate Sudfeld.
All right.
Delco Times, make sure you read Bob. Say hi to Merrill Reese when you're hobnobbing next time with him at the party.
Yeah, what party are you going to this week? Or Super Bowl? Whose Super Bowl party are you going to, Gross?
There is a Pro Football Report Tuesday at Parks Casino.
Parks Casino.
Yeah.
Pro Football Report with Merrill, Bob Groats. Do you have a special guest lined up yet?
We're working on that. We unfortunately had a cancellation.
Guys have scrambled from not a lot. Yeah.
It might be Jody Mack, but don't tell him I said that. Yeah, we made
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
Jody might be at Parks anyway. Just grab him.
For you, as long as you get me out before the 6th race. For you, anywhere, buddy. I'll show up anywhere for you, Groats. Bobby, thanks, bud. Talk to you.
Thanks,
Bob Groats, Delco Times. He was on Birds 365. Yeah. Have to twist my arm mightily to go up to Parks. All right, McDonald McMullen coming back to put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac the last couple minutes with us. Then Bill Colarulo and his Power Hour coming up next here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. J-Mac, need a prediction out of you. Not the Super Bowl. We got 2 weeks to figure that one out. But
I got to be talked back into San Francisco.
Before the Super Bowl, the Eagles, as a matter of fact, Howie Roseman et al. Might be heading down to Mobile today. Senior Bowl practices and stuff start next week. So Howie's going to be out of Dodge. But you have to continue to do football business as usual, hiring 2 new coordinators, continuing to evaluate the staff. Will there be a meet our news coordinator news gathering between now and the Super Bowl next week?
I doubt it for that reason. The Senior Bowl is this week. The practices start tomorrow. So
I was going to say probably not this week. People would love to have it this afternoon. Not happening, and probably not happening this week. How about the week between?
I see what you're saying.
Before the Super Bowl, will we get a chance to hear?
I
from
doubt it
Ellen
because
Warren?
they don't want to. My guess is now. Last year we didn't get Sean Desai till really late in the process. I think they're not going to want to upstage the Super Bowl. You know, part of that is NFL.
Yeah, but last year, because they went to the Super Bowl and B didn't know they were going to have to replace their defensive coordinator till thereafter. So it was much later. They got their 2 coordinators in place 2 weeks before the Super Bowl ever happens.
I don't think so. I hope so, but I don't think so.
So should every Eagle fan. You always want to hear from the guy.
For the reasons I just mentioned, this week's Senior Bowl, next week it's going to be, we don't want to take time away from the Super Bowl hype. That'll be the excuse.
And that's crap.
The
only thing you're doing is for the Philadelphia fan.
Exactly.
Nobody,
it is crap.
Nobody needing to see the Super Bowl has to tune in to see what the new Philadelphia defensive coordinator has to say. It's just purely for Eagle fans.
I hope I'm wrong. And part of it too, like Vic has been doing this forever. So you don't have to worry about getting guys up to speed, about handling the devastating Philadelphia media. And Kellen's been doing it, even though he's young. As I said, this is his 6th year, so he's used to doing it too.
Right.
So I think that helps. They don't have to worry about them putting their foot in their mouth. But I hope so, but I don't think so.
You'll be waiting for that text that may never come. Anyway, John and I will be here talking about it, whether we hear from either Vic Fangio or Kellen Moore. It doesn't matter. Birds 365 is here for you every single day. Same bat time, same bat channel. Mac Man, I'm back again tomorrow. You in?
Yeah, let's do it. I wish I could be at Senior Bowl practice, but we'll do Birds 365 and talk about. At some point, we'll talk about some.
A couple of guys
Bowl.
I reached out.
Gotta get. I'm way behind. I'm always way behind when it comes to draft stuff until the season ends. I got to get immersed.
Yeah, a couple guys I reached out to for guest spots said, no, sorry, I'm going to be in Senior Bowl this week. So chances are next week we'll catch up with some of those guys and get a post-Senior Bowl week update. But you'll get Mac and Mac right back here tomorrow. Thanks for streaming in today. Hit the like button on the way out. Catch us both in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 360.